Hello and welcome to the second in a three-part series on Chapter 4 of Government in America, covering civil liberties. In this video, we're going to talk primarily about the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment applies largely to what the government can do while investigating a crime. What are they allowed to search for? What are they allowed to take? Things like that. And the key concept that you want to get a hold of in order to understand the Fourth Amendment is understanding probable cause. Probable cause means that the government has good evidence, reasonable evidence, that a particular person, a particular place, a particular thing is somehow connected with a crime. And because of that reasonable evidence, they want to be able to investigate further, look for further evidence, even though that would require, going into some places, some place that they might not normally belong, or looking at someone's private property or something like that. So that's why if the police want to search a person's house, they need to have a warrant first. If they want to take some of a person's possessions in order to run tests on them, they need to show probable cause. And how do you show probable cause? Again, you get a warrant. You go to a judge, you say, here's the evidence we have so far. Here's why we think there's good reason to believe that there's more evidence to be found if we go into this building or search for this thing or, pull this person into custody or whatever. And then the judge looks at it and says, yes, I agree, here's your warrant, or no, I disagree, you got to bring me more. So this is before you can go looking through someone's things, you have to have a good reason first. You can't just say, oh, that person looked suspicious, or, that person lives on the same block as somebody that we think did something once upon a time, so we want to go hunt through their garage. No, you have to have a good reason that you think, oh, yeah, we think the murder weapon was hidden in this person's garage, or we think there are bloodstains on this person's coat, so that's why we want to run tests on it. Things like that. That's the kind of evidence that you would present and hopefully get your warrant if you're law enforcement. Now, what happens if you do a search and you don't have the warrant? Well, then the evidence can get thrown out. There's something in the American legal process called the Exclusionary Rule, and what that means is if someone can prove that the police or the government acquired evidence in a way that violated the Fourth Amendment or some of the other amendments that we're going to talk about, then the courts, the judges, can just say, we have to pretend that that evidence never existed. So the jury would never get a chance to hear about it if you're having a trial by jury, or the judge can't consider that at all. So this is something that, if you were on a jury, the defense attorney might say, oh, I object to this, and they would take the jury out of the room while the lawyers talk about it. And if the judge says, yeah, that has to be excluded, then the jury would never know about it. The jury would never hear about it, and they could never use it while they were making their decision. This gives the government an incentive to make sure that they follow the rules, because if they don't follow the rules, their evidence might get thrown out. And in fact, even if let's say you search someone's house without a warrant, and that gives you a clue that leads you to go somewhere else and find the murder weapon, the exclusionary rule could throw the whole thing out because the government didn't respect people's civil liberties. So, with all the power that the government has to search for your stuff and take your stuff and go into your home, the exclusionary rule is a powerful incentive for them to make sure that they do things right. The downside of that is that you might wind up with evidence that shows that somebody's guilty, but you can't use it because somebody didn't fill out the right paperwork or see the judge properly. Um, and as a result, someone who's guilty might wind up going free. So this is why the exclusionary rule is not always the most popular thing in the world. If you hear about someone, oh, they got off on a technicality, a lot of times it might be the exclusionary rule that people are talking about. But again, it is one of our civil liberties. It is something that's protected in the Constitution. And if you were a suspect, you would probably be glad that the law enforcement authorities had to follow it. We're going to stop here with the Fourth Amendment, and in the final video, we'll cover the Fifth, Sixth, and Eighth. But until then, I leave you with these questions for further thought.